Well, it's Tuesday morning and I'm on my way into the office for our Tuesday morning sales meetings. Now, our sales meetings really aren't always geared around sales. They're very informative. We get a lot of education out of them, and today at our meeting we're going to have Laura Cole from Lakewood Ranch give us some updates on what's going on in Lakewood Ranch, and I think she's going to start, actually from the beginning, how it's developed. The family that actually came here and purchased all of the land to start Lakewood Ranch, and bring us up to current what's going on today in today's market. So if you're interested in learning a little bit more about Lakewood Ranch, stick around. I have good information coming right up.
Don't buy real estate if you experience allergic reactions to happiness, satisfaction, pride, fulfillment, contentment. Stop buying real estate if you don't like community, a sense of belonging, a diversified portfolio. Buying real estate may cause you to shop at hardware stores, furniture stores, and design centers. See your realtor immediately if you experience any of these symptoms.
Hello, it's Boehmig, Michael Saunders and Company. And in this channel, Living in Lakewood Ranch, we cover all the areas around Lakewood Ranch, from Anna Maria down to Siesta Key, and from Sarasota up to Bradenton. So if you get value out of these videos, just click that little subscribe button, ding the little bell every time I put on a new video. You'll be notified. So let's go in and get this meeting started for today, because I think we're going to have some good information from Laura Cole. So let's go see what she has to say.
So good morning, my name is Laura Cole, and I've been with Lakewood Ranch now 6 years, title Senior Vice President of Lakewood Ranch Communities, which is really sort of managing the residential arm of Lakewood Ranch, the segmentation, working with Rex on the entitlements, and really kind of overseeing the whole builder program we have here, which is still pretty extensive. So starting with a larger picture, and it is Eline, and now you've got me saying it opposite. So Lakewood Ranch as a place has been around for over 100 years. The Eline family bought it from Schrader back in 1905, and the Elines are from Milwaukee. They are one of the original owners of the Schlitz Brewing Company, and they bought this property because they needed pine for their beer boxes. So that's sort of the very beginning of our history. And what's so unique about it in terms of master plan community development is that you would have to look far between master plan communities around the country to find the original owners still involved in the development of a community like Lakewood Ranch. This is somewhat of a typical situation, like a Irvine company out in California, the Woodlands, certainly Babcock Ranch. These were ranches that, like the Elines, really sort of started with agricultural uses. We were the second largest contributor to Tropicana of oranges. Is that right? You just correct me too, Emma. We went into livestock. We've done everything from tree harvesting here in the property to even most recently mining for shells. And so when you see those big lakes, the big lakes, not the ponds, not the retention ponds, around Lakewood Ranch, and where those likely came from was the shell mining. So it's I always say it's the gift that keeps giving. They found highest and best uses throughout its history, and once the shell mining had been completed, once the shell had been extracted, those lakes are gorgeous now, and they end up providing premiums for real estate. So moving into sort of the phase that we're all here for with Lakewood Ranch. Lakewood Ranch sort of has started having its destiny planned for it. And once I-75 was coming down here, in the city actually looked at it as a location for SRQ Airport. It also was targeted for a landfill. And so the owners started thinking, well, we think maybe it's time for really thinking about what we can do to add value to this land. And that's how Lakewood Ranch came to be. They decided to move forward with master plan community, visited communities all over the nation to look for best practices, and moved into master plan community development. So one of the things that I'm sure you'll find the absolute most challenging, and we actually struggle with this on a daily basis, is just the scale. How do you explain to somebody who's coming from New York, who hasn't been in an HOA, who's probably never seen a master plan community, what a master plan community is, and also just help them understand the scale. The scale of Lakewood Ranch is really important because it provides a lot of opportunities for us to plan services, to plan recreation and the like. And we are currently, and the boundaries have been consistent for over 100 years, and we'll talk about how that may be shifting, but We are about 50 square miles, which if you are from New York, you know that's more than 2 times the size of Manhattan. We're actually larger than Bradenton and Sarasota, the city of Sarasota, together. So the important thing is sort of explaining to people sort of the scale of it. And, you know, is certainly, if people are looking where to move, there are things that drive their decision making, whether they want to be the north, in the center, or now more in Sarasota. We became a master plan community in 1991. I say that, it was being planned 10 years before that. Again, to help people understand the scale, we're 4 exits off of I-75 now, you know, now that we have Fruitville moving into Sarasota. And of course, we're located in 2 counties. One of the things that I get asked, and you probably get asked all the time, is why isn't Lakewood Ranch incorporated? And I think they're probably here with people here with a longer history who know that we went through a process, I guess, where that was evaluated by the residents. But it was deemed that it was really going to add a whole nother layer of bureaucracy and costs, because right now we're serviced by Manatee County, the schools, police, fire, as well as Sarasota County. And both, I mean, when you just look at schools, all of the schools within Lakewood Ranch have been A-rated in the last round. So it was really hard to make the case for, if we're getting the services we need, why do we need to add a whole nother layer of government and bureaucracy? We are as of yesterday, I think we got the notice that there's a firm called RCOCO, it's a real estate advisory firm, and they do a semi-annual master plan community performance ranking. And so since 2018, we've been the #1 multi-generational community in the United States. We are #2 behind the Villages, who is a retirement or active adult community. We will likely never get ahead of the Villages. They keep expanding and growing lots. But we're actually really proud of the notion that we can represent ourselves as the all-ages community that has really been, you know, we could say America's favorite community now for 5 years, 4.5 years. If you have 50 square miles of land and you have patient capital because you've owned the land for a long time, and you have owners who really sort of make decisions with a long vision, that's really helpful, because most of these planned communities are supported with private equity, and what that means is they need short-term results. What we've been able to do is sort of plan for the long run, but we also have to be really nimble. So one of the things that we really focus on is planning for the future, but again, being somewhat flexible with our builders to know we're going to have to adapt to pricing, we're going to have to adapt to product, and we'll talk a little bit about some changes that we see since the pandemic and because our pricing structure has really grown. So people move because of quality of life, right? Nobody moves because I'm going to go live in a worse place. I think people have aspirations when they move to Florida. They have aspirations about being outdoors, and our dedication to open space and the trail network is really, really important. And that's always been sort of what we see as a connective tissue of the community. We're now, as you all know, working with a different stable of builders who take down larger parcels. Waterside's a whole different story. It's a bit of a hybrid model of what we've done in the past. But you know, for us, it's really, really important to be able to have that relationship with those builders and to be able to advance the community so that we don't hit bad market cycles and affect the whole community. And fortunately, we've been able to ride that pretty well. We have neighborhood and town centers, and at this point, how many Publix do we have? 6? So we have 6 Publix, I think. So we had the sort of design principle or the framework for Lakewood Ranch was not only to have the trails and the networks be the connective tissue, but to have everybody near a neighborhood center, a grocery anchored neighborhood center, and then really organized around 3 activity centers, which are the Greens, Main Street, and now Waterside Place. So the idea was to try to give people 3 different flavors for entertainment, also bringing people in as a destination, and we're finding more and more people are moving to the periphery. They come to our information center to get information about Lakewood Ranch because that's their amenity center. That's where they're going to go for hospitals, for entertainment, and so that's how we're evolving. People come here and connect very well. Many people are uprooting from places they've been for generations. It's a welcome community, and we hope that stays that way because it is rather special. And I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about this because it gets very confusing, but you all know that we have something called the Stewardship District. And the Stewardship District handles most of the new areas of the community. I say most of because the areas that we're in, these were the original villages, and of course those fall under the IDA, and then you can get down to the CDDs, so it gets very complex. But the bigger picture is that in doing a community of this scale and feeling a responsibility for how does this community live after the developer leaves, we developed it under something called the Stewardship District, and of course you know that there's fees associated with that. But what that allows us to do is to carry on the vision. It allows us to implement the strategy for how the common areas are managed and to maintain those so that you have a perpetual form of funding to really make sure that the values in this community are maintained into perpetuity, with or without us. And that will become independent and run completely by residents once we hit a certain threshold. So every day this changes, and I'm not going to go through it to great detail, but people ask, why do people move here? Well, the reason people move here is because in sort of the planning world terms, because we've hit critical mass. You can come here, you can immediately plug into a neighborhood, you know your shopping center's nearby, you know your kids can go to a school, you know you have options to go to restaurants. Everything is already kind of here, and as we grow, what you're going to see is a level of granularity that's starting to form, which is more options, right? So the core stuff is here, and now we're getting more options in our grocery stores, in our restaurants, and so that life gets a bit more enriched. Now I will say, so we're about 24,000 households, which gets us to a population of 60,000. We see that population growing over time, and believe it or not, we're only half built out in terms of our residential program. So as I'm telling you this, and this is going to sound strange, but we're sold out in terms of residential land. So pretty much every residential parcel in Lakewood Ranch at this point, and I was telling you about the future, is now in the hands or under contract with a builder. We're just to the point where we have to get through the sales. So it's anybody's guess what absorption is. I've got some guesses, but that's kind of where we're at. And the thought is that, you know, at the end of build out, it's very likely that we'll be in excess of 100,000 people in this community. This is really a pretty comprehensive set of services, you know, amenities and assets that I think people look at when they move here. We've been on a good run. We've been on a really good run in terms of sales. Really, starting in 2016, we started seeing growth, and a lot of that has to do with also what was being offered on the market. Again, we were trying to meet every price point, we were trying to meet every demographic, every life stage, and so the economy really helped us with that. Last year we reached a record 2,500, almost 2,600 sales, and this year, midway point, even though we're still, you know, ranked the #1 multi-gen community, we were 33% down from the prior year. And so everybody was like, oh my God, 33%. And I thought we were going to be lower on that list. Well, it turns out under us, the next community is 599. So that's a big, you know, so it's obviously everybody in the nation is dealing with the struggles that we see here, which is obviously inventory constraints, supply chains, our costs, but our pricing has, I'll show you, has really gone up exponentially. And, you know, obviously mortgage rates increasing where they are has really kind of chilled the market. But the reality is that we really don't know where the market is. If I have to, I mean, I sort of pride myself on trying to think of where we are. I can't tell you with 100% certainty if, you know, if we've really been able to meet all the demand there. I'm sure we haven't. Because when you look at, these are our sales from January 19th all the way through June. And I just kind of pulled out, this is in April. We thought the world was ending. You guys remember for about a month? Yes. You know, we started making plans. And then really from, I would say from May, but if you look at, you know, from past months, so I'd say from June to May of last year, June of the 2020 to May of last year, we saw just a terrific surge in home sales, really prompted by the pandemic. And then, you know, here we saw ourselves, you know, we're really kind of more, a little bit above, but more at pre-pandemic levels. And it's, in fact, the last 12 months, from the last half of last year, we've looked pretty similar. So in my mind, there's not this thing like we've dropped off a cliff in any way, obviously. So now kind of just going into where we are this year. So this shows you sort of the, who's selling in the community since June. And Lorain Lakes, they're with Lennar, and they've done extremely well in Lennar there, or in Lorain Lakes. Obviously, Lakewood National is sort of running out, but that was sort of the machine that they replaced in terms of volume. So Lennar is doing extremely well. Esplanade is doing phenomenal. But what I was surprised by was if you look at all the top sales, this is pretty diverse in terms of a buyer profile, right? So you've got your Lorain Lakes, which I would say is oriented has more family-oriented amenities. You have Azario, which is active adult. You have Del Webb, which is age-restricted. Windward is everything, but it's also a lot of families, at least early on. Sapphire Point, kind of more family-oriented. Crestwind, age-restricted. So the point is that we still are seeing, which again surprises me, all segments in the market still operating at a pretty high level. And obviously, I would say that the other thing that's pretty obvious here is like the Lake Club, some of the higher priced villages. That most of those are cash buyers in a lot of instances. And we did see in June, we saw a big spike in cash buyers, which is to be expected because of everything that's going on. So I think it jumped to 40% of our buyers, which was huge. Generally, we're kind of closer to the 30s if you look at the long-term average. And we see that continuing partially because we also see more incentives now being offered by builders who are interested in obviously incentivizing cash buyers. So we're seeing that a little bit more. The one thing we do see is obviously, and I think this is going to be sticky, builders have, at all levels, have moved to more spec building. They can control their costs better. They also have figured out that the consumer doesn't want 40,000 options. Give us good, a good, well-curated options, and we can move forward with that. So I do think we're going to see less of the, more options and structural options as we move forward because builders have created a discipline around, creating more efficiencies in their build cycles. So here, what we have is, this is something that I just do on a quarterly basis, and what I do is I just look at the last 12 months, so keep that in mind where we've been, and I look at the sales pace or absorption pace, and I say, okay, based on if we took the last 12 months average, how long before these villages sell out? And I always say, gosh, we have so many villages. We have 19 villages, which again, you have to explain the scale of the community, and then you have to kind of explain, all the flavors that exist with the villages. But the reality is that we're going to be, within the next year, I think we have 7 villages. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So Lakewood National, Harmony, Del Webb, Indigo, Savannah, the Lake Club, Woodleaf Hammock. Those are likely, I might be off, but those are likely to sell out during that period of time. One of the caveats I should make here is Star Farms. So they only opened in March, and obviously they have a couple month track record. And so if I had to, they would never have a 11-month absorption period. Otherwise it just wouldn't happen. So the likelihood is I think they're looking at a 6 to 7 year sellout if the market supports that. So that's the caveat I want to make. But you have 1 year 7 burning out. Within the next 2 to 3 years, you have quite a few other villages selling out. And then you have the bigs like Star Farms is going to be around for some time. Azaria will still have almost 4.5 years of inventory. Windward, adding new phases, will have close to 6 years south of Waterside. Now what's coming on new? Avalon Woods, and to your point, Harmony is selling out, and of course this was their townhome phase. So Ryan Homes, which has not been a builder of ours in the past, but is coming in, will be building townhomes. This is a really hard chart to read, but you're going to be hearing more about it. So we've all spent, and if you're working for SMR, you've spent a tremendous amount of time on Waterside in every aspect, working on the town center, I've worked on the residential program. And you all know that going back now 3, 4, gosh, I guess maybe it's like 4 years, we've had a number of existing communities in place. So we had Shoreview, we've had Lake House Cove. These are the apartments. Grand Rhine is the senior living that's right off of University. And both Shoreview and Lake House Cove Shoreview is already releasing lots, the waterfront lots there. They're going to have a second phase of that. So in total, I think it's about 57 lots that Shoreview has on the waterfront there. Plus they have some additional ones still in the first phases. Lake House Cove has just opened the second phase, which will run along what's called Blue Lake Road, and so they're actively selling there. But the whole concept of Waterside with its town center is to try to really create kind of what I would call a multiple price point community that brings in all types of different demographics and, and lifestyles and the like. And so what I just put on is everything that's, if you go out there, it's just there's construction everywhere. Pulte has already started breaking ground on Avanti, which is their future towns, quads, and single family detached. They'll have 166 units there. And those will be targeted to more attainable price points. So it's hard to say because when they come to market, it's going to have to be tied to the 100 to 120% of area median income. But right now, that looks like in the 350 to 470,000 range. A new builder for us, David Weekley, who I'm a big fan of, is going to be building in Emerald Landing, these two parts here. This is what I call more of an in-town type of product. So they're going to have luxury townhomes and single-family detached, but more with a sort of semi-urban feel to it because it ties right to the town center. So I think those are going to be very popular. Those will be 244. That's Emerald Landing. MI Homes, which has been a terrific builder for us, is building Nautique, and they're going to have towns and single-family detached, 220 units, and those again are going to be more price sensitive, and so those are 350 to 470-ish right now. Then right across, you have Cannon. These are going to be 13 units, and I have to think they're going to probably command some of the best price points that we've achieved in Lakewood Ranch in a single family detached, just because of the size of them. It's Cannon. The views are spectacular. So those will be, that's a small project there. Like everywhere else in Waterside, none of these communities are gated. The part of our entitlements require us to have integrated neighborhoods, walking from one to the next. All public schools that are within the boundaries of Lakewood Ranch, and I'll tell you why otherwise, were A-rated in this last round, which came out in the last 2 weeks, I think. Schools that are tied to Sarasota had an A, B, and C ranking for the elementary, middle, and high school. And we do have a new elementary school on the 5-year plan in Sarasota and have sold in Corporate Park a site to Sarasota County for a high school, but that's still not on the 5-year plan, and we're fighting like heck to get that in there. You guys know we have this in spades. This is a Parks and Recreation piece. I think the biggest differentiator for us is how we activate these spaces. Like SMR puts a lot of money into hiring lifestyle directors and working with a community activities group. We now have a Parks and Recreation program. So again, we're kind of like a city. And you know, we see that growing, and it's amazing to us how people engage. We've established, I think, some real signature programs. So Ranch Nights became huge. If you have a young buyer, particularly if anybody wanted to know whether we had young people in the community, but that'll start again in October, and that goes through May. And those are about 4,500 people that would convene in Waterside Place. The farmers market on the high side got to 2,000 in the medical center per day, you know, I think at that time it was a Saturday. We're on a regular basis getting between 4,500 and even 7,000 in high season. That is now year round, and there's close to 100 vendors that go every Sunday. There's live music, there's movie series, and these are calendars you can get on MyLWR on our main website. We did change the color scheme on our map. The green is what's still actively selling. So that gives you a sense of, when I say 50%, they're still obviously in Lake Club, they're still in the Isles, Lakewood National has a few, Sweetwater. So you see the orange is what's already sold out. So it's really throughout the community when you aggregate those numbers. Obviously all of this is new, and the northeast quadrant's where you have the most number of units.
So I think that was good to have Laura come in and give us an overview. I know it was a little bit long, and thanks for hanging in there while she gave us an update on what's going on in Lakewood Ranch. And listen, I'm going to put a link to the Lakewood Ranch guide in the description below. So if you want to get a copy of the Lakewood Ranch guide, we can mail you a hard copy or send you a digital copy. I'll put that in the description below. You just fill that out and we'll get it sent out to you. If you find yourself coming to the Lakewood Ranch area, I'd be glad to help you locate a property here. Mark Boehmig, Michael Saunders and Company.